What's up guys, welcome to another video. In today's video we're finally going to talk about the free laptops that I got in December of 2023. We're, we're finally doing a follow-up video on this. This took way too long. I wanted to make a follow-up video way earlier than this, but it all went downhill. Well, kinda. It also went up in a few things, but yeah, it didn't go so well. You're probably wondering, where the hell is the Asus? Where the hell is the third laptop? We'll talk about that too. I'll explain everything here. Everything that's going to happen to these laptops. Everything that has happened, because an absolute ton has happened with these laptops. I swear, I've done so much in this time, and that's the reason why I've just kept delaying this video, because I wanted to know what the outcome would be before I'd make this video. So yeah, let's finally dive into it. So the first thing I want to mention is, I mentioned a few times that I really wanted to get the charger of the Asus repaired. Well, look, it got repaired, and I'm really glad it did, because this is a super useful charger. I can use this charger with almost any laptop that I have. It's compatible with almost any laptop that I have. It's just a standard 19-volt charger with a standard plug, except it's 135 watts instead of 90. The universal charger that I used before this was a 90-watt Toshiba brick, and it did not like some of my laptops. Some of my laptops, like my Acer Aspire 1800, which is a desktop replacement laptop with a desktop Pentium 4, yeah, those slurp a lot of power, and I couldn't use that laptop, the Aspire 1800, because it slurped so much power, in fact, that the charger sometimes shut off due to either overheating or just over current protection, because it was drawing so much power, or just trying to draw so much power during the Windows installation, just kept shutting down. So this charger, I really wanted to get it repaired, because that way I could use every laptop that I have, even the really high power ones that really need a lot of power to work. And now it works. Now the Acer works. I can use any laptop that I want. Really happy I got it repaired. Yes, I know 2 of the feet on the bottom are gone, but I'm super happy with it. It was shorted internally. There was like the wire got twisted. Like the wire on the end here, it got twisted so much that it eventually just started the plus and minus started to just twist into each other, and it completely shorted out. And there was like, yeah, there was a short inside of it, basically. It didn't want to turn on anymore after a while. So yeah, that got removed from the wire. Works completely fine now. Really happy with it. But where's the Asus yourself, where's the Asus itself, you ask? Well, that's a pretty tragic story, honestly. The Asus really was my favorite laptop of the bunch at first. You could really tell my excitement was on the Asus the most, because I've never had a AMD Turion laptop before, let alone an X264 TL52. That's the CPU that it had. So I was really excited about it, mainly also because it had a GeForce 7600 Go graphics card, and I had an Asus before with a 7200 Go, and I honestly, I gave that laptop away to a friend, and I really regretted it. I was like, damn, I would have really wanted to try retro games on that thing. So I was really excited for it, but it wasn't hell. My goal was to restore all 3 of these laptops, repaste them, clean them on the inside. Of course, get that charger repaired, clean them really well, replace the thermal paste, make them to the original state, maybe. Well, I wasn't going to do it with the Toshiba anyway, but you know, on the Samsung, I actually ended up doing that, kind of. We'll get into that later. And upgrade them, honestly. So what I wanted to do is, I wanted to first work on the Asus, because it was the most worn laptop out of the bunch. Its charger needed repairing. Its thermal paste really needed a repaste. It really needed a repaste, so badly so that it almost overheated at first. Yeah, it was not doing well. So I did that. I wanted to also repaste the GPU of the Asus, and the GPU is hidden all the way on the motherboard. I have to take the entire laptop apart completely to get the motherboard out, and that way I can repaste the GPU. So I did that. Oh, it was such a hell, I swear to God, getting the keyboard out and stuff. It was so horrible because there were no manuals online or tutorials online on how to do it, because this wasn't a common laptop. It was the Asus A7T, if you're wondering. Go watch my part 1 of this back in December 2023 if you're new here. So yeah, I finally got the GPU to repaste. I finally put the entire thing back together, and there was the disaster. The GPU was kind of fricked, to put it lightly. It worked completely fine, but there were lines on the screen. Text looked really weird. Text was going all over the place. So I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. Did I slightly damage the GPU? Well, I kind of did, and I kind of didn't. So what happened was there was this really weird block-looking thing on the side of the heatsink next to the GPU, and it was holding on the heatsink extremely tightly. So yeah, I put a little too hard on the heatsink and it fucked up the GPU. So what I did, I took the entire laptop apart, entire thing again, took the motherboard out. I put a heat gun on the GPU die itself, repasted it again, and there you go. It finally worked. And this took 5 days, by the way. This is 5 days of work already. And I was going through a lot. It was not easy. So I was like, I'm completely done with this laptop. I upgraded the RAM from 2 gigs to 3 gigs. I want to upgrade it to 4 gigs, but it doesn't recognize 4 gigs. It only does, 3 gigs. It doesn't recognize 4. And the RAM also, the RAM can run 667 megahertz actually. So yeah, I had to slow down the speed of the RAM, but it did work with 3 gigs. I put it in a 320 gigabyte hard drive instead of the really slow and really bad sector heavy 120 gig Fujitsu drive. I'm not completely sure what's going on with the original hard drive. It had millions of bad sectors, which I don't understand because it performs completely fine. It didn't perform like a drive with bad sectors. It performed fine for, say, the one drive. So I don't really understand that, why it said that it had so many sectors. I thought that this was a smart error or like a smart data corruption. Not sure. I'm really not sure. I don't really use that hard drive, honestly. I do have it, but I don't use it. So yeah, that was, I thought, then I tested the GPU and I was honestly kind of, I wasn't really impressed by the GPU performance. I was kind of disappointed. So yeah, that laptop was quite a big disappointment. It just ended up sitting here for a few months and I didn't really use it. I just put way too much effort in it. I did try using it when I got the charger repaired, but it's slow. The AMD Turion X2 TL52 that it had was too slow at 1.8 gigahertz. And the GPU, sorry man, but the GPU kind of sucked, I must say. The GPU was really underwhelming. For a 7600 Go, come on. Was that mid-range back in the day? Sorry man, but it sucked. This was not a laptop worth keeping. I just noticed that after really all of that work. So yeah, after 2 weeks or something, after weeks got passed, I didn't really use it, and eventually I just threw it away. I just went to e-waste and I was like, you know what, I'm taking all the parts out of this, taking my RAM back, taking my hard drive, and I'm throwing this away because it's too controversial. I did too much to it. I put too much effort into it. But yeah, I threw it away. Someone did actually have interest in it, so yeah, I should have actually not thrown it away and given it to someone. I'll get into that person in a bit. But yeah, I had already thrown it away, so that's why the Asus is gone. Too much effort, too disappointing, was way too worn out to keep as well. Was really worn. Did you look at the palm rests in that video, man? The palm rests were completely gone. The touchpad was really glossy. Yeah, it was not worth keeping. So these two remain. The Toshiba and the Samsung remain. We'll first get into the Toshiba because the Samsung is not a long story. So this is the A300 something rather. The Toshiba Satellites A300-12K. I did quite a bit with this, honestly. Despite being the most boring laptop of the bunch, I did do the most with this one, which is funny. So this came with 2 gigs of RAM, a 250 gigabyte SATA 1 hard drive, 5400 RPM. Intel Pentium T2370, which is 2 cores, 2 threads, 1.73 gigahertz, 1 whole megabyte of L2 cache on the 65 nanometer MIROM architecture. So this is a bit older. This is earlier Pentium Core 2 Duo era. This is not a Penrine 45 nanometer chip. This is a 65 nanometer MIROM chip that is older. Just like my one of my Packard Bell laptops. So yeah, this was definitely the flashiest laptop of the bunch, as you can see. I did restore this. I repasted this just yesterday. My intention with this was to try Windows XP on this and try some retro gaming, which went well and it didn't go well. So I upgraded the RAM to 3 gigabytes because if you put 4 gigabytes in here, it just blue screens every time. I don't know why. I tried putting a BIOS update on this, but there was there were no BIOSes available for this model, but all of those were older than the one that was on here already. So yeah. In short terms, this thing is awful, to be honest, but we'll get into that a little bit. I put Windows XP on here on, what was it? What I did to this, I upgraded the RAM to 3 gigs. I got an Xbox 360 hard drive, which I tore apart, and I took the hard drive itself out. It was a SATA 1 drive, so it's really slow, but it's a 120 gigabyte hard drive for free, so I was like, okay, it's the most useless drive I have. Why not put in the most useless laptop that I have? So I did that. Installed Windows XP, installed all the drivers, but I just couldn't get the sound to work, which is really sad because the speakers on this are pretty decent. It does have a decent sound system. It's a bit above average on your average laptop speakers, so yeah. I didn't want to get the audio to work, but I didn't. I ended up not getting the audio to work. Didn't matter what I did. It just wouldn't work. But on Windows XP, this thing was super quick. This thing was insanely fast on Windows XP. Really efficient as well. The battery was lasting pretty long. But yeah, I wanted to get back to Windows 7 because the audio worked in Windows 7 and, it was generally quite slow on Windows 7, but, everything just worked. So I installed Windows 7 on here again, and then I just honestly abandoned it. I just stopped working on this. I did work on this the longest of the 3. I did do the most with this one out of the 3, which is pretty ironic because I didn't do that much with it. But yeah, I did play Half-Life 2 on this, and it's awful. These internal graphics, this thing has Intel GMA X3100 graphics with 384 megabytes of RAM, I think shared with the VRAM, sorry. 384 megabytes of VRAM. I think that's shared with the normal RAM. With the PCI interface for some reason. I don't know why I use a PCI interface for the GPU. Seems a little outdated and a little weird for 2008. But I guess they really didn't have a choice because it's not PCI Express and it's also not AGP because AGP was already abandoned at this point. But yeah, integrated graphics on this are awful. They are so awful, in fact, that you cannot even properly run Windows Aero on this, which is super ironic because this came with Windows Vista out of the factory, which is an operating system I didn't try on this, and I'm not going to bother to try to use. So yeah, let's turn this on. It works completely fine. This is actually going to someone, by the way. I work with someone at the thrift store, and I showed him this laptop. Do you have any interest in it? I don't really use it anymore, but it does work completely fine. He was like, "Yeah, sure. If you're throwing it out otherwise, I'll take it." So, yeah, this thing is going away in 2 weeks. So if you have anything that you want me to do with this laptop, leave it down in the comments, because this thing is going away in 2 weeks. You will never see it again. So yeah, this is not really going to be a laptop that I'm going to miss because I have plenty other ones that are a lot better than this and actually have GPUs. So yeah, this laptop was alright to get, 1.7 gigahertz dual core, not too quick. 1 mega cache is pretty awful, but it does run. It's not the worst thing ever. It does run Windows 7 okay. I do have the basic theme turned on because, well, please don't run Windows Aero on this. It's awful. It does use a SATA 2 interface, so one thing I really don't understand is they include a SATA 1 250 gigabyte hard drive with this. Meanwhile, this has a SATA 2 interface. Like, why the hell not take advantage of that, Toshiba? What the frick? Also don't understand why it was a Hitachi drive. I'm really used to Toshiba using hard drives in their laptops from their own brand, but I guess they just didn't bother with this cheap thing. The battery is kind of sucky. The battery is really bad on this now. I don't understand why. It also started getting really hot recently. I don't know why. This used to run really quiet and really cool. So I didn't bother to repaste this. I wasn't going to repaste this in general, but the person that I'm going to give this to said that he would rather want me to repaste it because, well, you know, that's just a lot neater. So I did that, and it does run pretty cool now. It runs like, what, 16 degrees cooler now. It's actually, that's with Arctic MX4, by the way. That's with cheap thermal paste. It runs really well now. There's nothing wrong with this laptop. You know, it has a 1280 by 800 display. The display is probably the only decent-ish thing about this laptop. It's not 768p like every single other laptop from this time period. But yeah, there were a lot better versions of this laptop. This really is the bottom tier one. Most of them had Pentiums that were quicker than this and did have a graphics card. I think one actually had a ATI Radeon HD 4570, which is a GPU I have used in a laptop before. A lot of these also use really good Core 2 Duos. It's just that this one is particularly sucky. Yeah, this one just sucks. This is not a nice version of this laptop. It is alright. It does have some cool features like this whole light bar thing, this whole light theme. It does have a really nice light theme on it, you know, lots of things light up. I do like the design of this. There's nothing wrong with the design of this. It's just that the hardware itself is really not worth keeping, honestly. The battery sucks because it dies. Once it dies, it dies. Because, well, what happens is if this drains below 50%, it shuts off. And when you turn it back on, it says 6%, please plug me in. Like, what the hell? Why do you die when you go below 50%? I do have a different battery for this. That's actually a smaller size, but the health is better. This has 70% battery health. The other one I have has 85 battery health. But it's smaller capacity. But it didn't have that issue. So one of the cells in the battery is probably dying. And it's probably lower voltage than the rest. But yeah, this thing chugs along fine. You know, I did put the stupidest hard drive in here that's really slow. But it runs fine. It does run 480p YouTube. It does do standard definition YouTube still with 2 gigs of RAM, which is fairly impressive, I guess. But yeah, there's really nothing much to this thing. I did try a lot to get the most out of this. But if you want to run Half-Life 2 on this, you'll have to completely turn everything down in 480p, and it really sucks. This rivals the GT210. In fact, I think the GT210 is better than this. If you overclock a GT210, even like the horrible 512MB version, it will perform better than this. The integrated graphics are what really put me off. I have some great CPU upgrades for this thing laying around, but I didn't give any of them to it because it has those integrated graphics. So it's really not worth. Look, it's at 30%. Oh, 30% wear level. Sorry, the battery is at like what? Oh, 76. I'll put it in balanced mode. Yeah. So yeah, that's the verdict with the Toshiba. It's going away to another person that will appreciate it more than me because I don't really have a use for this. It doesn't even have HDMI. It's a really cheap version of this laptop. I think it cost like $550 back in the day. It's not a great laptop. I don't really have a use for it. As long as it doesn't have a graphics card, it's not really worth much to me. You know, I could upgrade this to a Core 2 Duo T9400, which I do have laying around, really powerful CPU. But I don't think this would even be compatible with that. And why bother with the integrated graphics? So yeah, there's a lot that is fine, but it's really nothing special apart from all the outside bling. With all the buttons and stuff. The speakers are great. The display is pretty good, but that's it. That's where the positives end. So yeah, I'm going to put this in sleep mode. And we'll discuss the Samsung now, and you will not see this laptop again in 2 weeks. So if you want me to do anything with this, run anything on it, let me know down in the comments, because I sure will, because this thing will be gone soon. So finally, enough rambling about the Toshiba with its T2370 Pentium. Let's take a look at the Samsung, which was also probably my most favorite laptop. In fact, this was going to be my second main laptop at some point, till I got a different laptop, but we'll get into that later. This is a Samsung R580 JS07NL, made in August 2010. And the reason why I say JS07NL is because, well, there are lots of versions of this. This was a budget-ish laptop that cost like $800 back in the day. I was really excited for this one too, with its beautiful red design. There's also a blue version of this. There are lots of different versions of this laptop. So yeah, this one works completely fine. This really was the gold mine out of all the three, because it had, not just because it had a first gen i5, but also because it came with both a 500GB laptop hard drive, which is excellent. That's really big for a laptop drive. It came with a GPU, and it also came with a 120GB Samsung 840 EVO SSD, which I just took out, by the way. So if we boot this up, it's not going to boot into any operating system anymore. I just took it out yesterday for another laptop. So this thing was not just good to use, but it was also really handy for parts, because it had 2 drives in it. It had 4 gigs of DDR3, which is, it's okay. Not terribly useful. I would have liked it if it was 8 gigs, but, you know, I'm not complaining. And, yeah, so the specs on this are an Intel Core i5 450M. I'm just reading that off my head. And a NVIDIA GeForce GT 330M, 1 gig. So this is pretty decent. You know, I was going to turn this into my second laptop, my second best laptop, because, you know, I didn't have that good of a laptop at the time. I do have a new one, which is absolutely amazing. It absolutely crushes this thing. So, yeah, I was mainly excited for this thing because, well, I wanted to do a CPU upgrade on this. I wanted to upgrade it from a i5 450M to a i7 740QM. So, I bought one on AliExpress for $4. $4 whole freaking dollars, or euros, I guess. But it never arrived. And this is one of the main reasons why this video was delayed for so long, because I was waiting for that freaking CPU to get in. And then I read on a forum post that this laptop cannot handle the 740QM because of its 10 watt higher TDP. The best CPU you can put in this is an i7 640M, because that's the highest end CPU Intel made on first gen that has a TDP lower than 45 watts. So yeah, I was like, oh crap, well, I wasted money already, and what if it arrives? What the hell will I do with it? It didn't. It never arrived. In fact, it should have arrived the 22nd of January. It's now like what, 13th of February or something? I have no clue, but it's been almost a month, still hasn't arrived. And it wouldn't work in this laptop anyways. So this laptop I actually did the least with out of the three. I booted it up a couple times, installed the GPU drivers, because the GPU driver was not installed on this. Upgraded the RAM from 4 gigs to 12 gigs, which it somehow supports. I don't know how it supports that, because the CPU says it supports a max of 8 gigs, but it's working fine with 12. I took this to school a couple times to play Half-Life 2 in school, because that's just fun. I did install some of the Samsung bloatware that came with this. But yeah, is it even going to... Great, it's not even posting. But yeah, I really like this laptop still. I'm really sad I cannot, like, upgrade it. I haven't even repasted this thing yet. This thing has not been restored to its original shape, but I will in a bit. I will someday. You know, the 500GB hard drive is back in here, which is original to the thing. I do have the original 4 gigs of RAM, so I could just install Windows 7 Home Premium on this thing, redo the thermal paste on both chips, and call it a day. Then it's completely restored back to original shape. But then I got a Dell laptop from eWaste, which had a 740QM in it, which is funny, and a GT445M, which is a way better GPU than this. That's like almost twice as powerful. So yeah, then it kind of just broke its purpose. I was like, yeah, let's turn this into my secondary laptop with 2 hard drives and really make it my storage laptop. And, you know, put Windows 10 on here and Windows 7 on both drives to like have dual boot, really cool stuff. No, I ended up doing absolutely nothing with this thing, because I didn't just get a new main laptop, but I also got a new secondary laptop that are both way more powerful than this thing. So yeah, I'm kind of stuck with the Samsung. It's just sitting against my wall, and it has kind of a few scratches. It's kind of has things have defeated its purpose now, which is why it's kind of sad. Battery does work pretty well, but it does have the tendency to randomly die, just like the Toshiba. But you know, it's alright. I have no clue about the health. I didn't even look into hardware info 64 on this thing. I literally just took the SSD out, just to reuse in other systems and laptops. So yeah, this thing was good for part scrapping. I'm not going to throw it away yet. I'm not going to give it away yet. I'm never going to throw away this thing because it's nice. You know, it's still a nice laptop. I will probably repaste this thing and do the thermal paste. And just clean it up on the inside. This thing looks the cleanest out of the three. The Toshiba was kind of a dustbin on the inside. It was really dusty on the inside. The Asus wasn't too bad, so I'm not expecting too bad out of this one. Did come with the charger, yeah, so I'm not completely sure what to do with the Samsung now, I guess. I will probably repaste it, give it a little clean, give it a OS install on the hard drive, and, you know, restore it to factory settings. Despite that, I'm probably never going to use it. Honestly, it's really, really sad. But yeah, that wraps it up for this video. More content probably coming today, I'm not completely sure. But yeah, that's what's going to happen with these. Samsung is going to stay the way it is. May get a restore, small chance. Toshiba's going away soon. That's pretty much it. I guess, see you later. Have a good day.